All right, folks. So the FBI is being cleaned out. FBI launches sweeping staff cuts as Trump seeks to purge career officials. These are DOJ officials launching a purge of the FBI. Of course, Kash Patel, not yet confirmed, although it looks like he will be. He had his confirmation hearings over the past week. The FBI launched a wide-ranging round of staff cuts on Friday as Donald Trump's administration moved to swiftly shake up the U.S.'s leading law enforcement agency, three sources familiar with the matter told the Reuters news agency. At least 5 top FBI officials in major U.S. cities, Miami, Philadelphia, Washington, New Orleans, and Las Vegas, were ordered to resign or be fired, one of the sources told Reuters. The move came at the same time that CNN reported that a purge of career law enforcement officials would hit the agency, with dozens of FBI agents facing the axe who worked on investigations into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol and any Trump-related cases, such as the inquiry into missing sensitive documents found at Mar-a-Lago. CNN reported that agents and other employees would be asked to resign or face termination in a process starting on Friday. The FBI Agents Association called the planned firings outrageous actions. Dismissing potentially hundreds of agents would severely weaken the Bureau's ability to protect the country from national security and criminal threats, and will ultimately risk setting up the Bureau and its new leadership for failure, the association said in a statement. Meanwhile, the Washington Post also reported that interim U.S. Attorney Ed Martin has dismissed roughly 30 federal prosecutors who worked on January 6th cases in the Washington office over the past 4 years. So that Guardian article was kind of a concise summation of the different outlets that had their own more or less exclusive reports on that, which is why we use that. That gives you a kind of concise overview of the actions. But here you can hear it from Donald Trump's mouth himself saying, hey, I don't have anything to do with it, but there were some bad people over there, very bad people over there. Something had to be done.
Justice in the FBI, there are a number of high-level people who are being asked to resign or are being told they are going to be fired. Did you specifically request any actions at the Bureau or DOJ with respect to those employees?
No, but we have some very bad people over there. It was weaponized at a level that nobody's ever seen before. They came after a lot of people. They came after a lot of people. No, I wasn't involved in it. I'll have to see what is exactly going on after this is finished. But if they fired some people over there, that's a good thing, because they were very bad. They were very corrupt people, very corrupt. And I
had nothing to do with it. I don't know what happened, but there's a lot of scum over there. They needed to clean them out, so I'm glad it happened. I didn't have anything to do with it.
Hurt our country very badly with the weaponization. They used the Justice Department to go after their political opponent, which in itself is illegal. And obviously it didn't work.
All right. So let's see how MSNBC took the news. First, we got a clip of Maddow saying they're going to purge everybody. They're going to purge everybody. Oh, no.
Matt, they appear to be targeting all the FBI agents who were involved in any of the cases brought against January 6th rioters. And to put this in perspective, the January 6th riot cases make up the largest single investigation ever in the history of the Bureau. The January 6th cases are the largest criminal caseload ever assembled by the Department of Justice. If they are going to try to purge every FBI agent who took any part in any one of these well over 1,000 cases, that's kind of the whole FBI. I mean, not every single member of the FBI, but certainly most of the FBI.
Oh, my God.
That's right. Let's see how the rest of the network took it. Here we have a montage by Real AF Patriot. Yes, friend of show, Real AF Patriot, has a montage of some of Maddow's peers and colleagues responding to the news.
Administration has conducted an unprecedented purge at the top levels of the FBI. Unprecedented.
It can only be described as the start of a massive, much larger than expected purge at the FBI of FBI agents and officials. Many of them, in one way or another, touch the investigations into Donald Trump.
Partisan PURGE, a plan to politicize the FBI.
Everything that you are hearing that from Ken, it's illegal.
They appear to.
All right. And then it goes back to Maddow, which we've already seen. Now, of course, the claims that the FBI was politicized and weaponized against Donald Trump are, in fact, true. Mays here has, from 2019, former FBI director and treasonous scumbag, his editorial, Andrew McCabe openly discusses his role in the attempted coup against President Trump while promoting a book on 60 Minutes. Now, we can't use 60 Minutes video, but we do have the audio from that where you can kind of hear him describe the threat that was his new boss, so to speak.
To the man I was speaking, to the man who had just run for the presidency and won the election for the presidency, and who might have done so with the aid of the government of Russia, our most formidable adversary on the world stage. And that was something that troubled me greatly.
How long was it after that you decided to start the obstruction of justice and counterintelligence investigations involving the president?
I think the next day I met with the team investigating the Russia cases, and I asked the team to go back and conduct an assessment to determine where are we with these efforts and what steps do we need to take going forward.
All right. So that's just one of many examples. Obviously, if you've been following the news these past 8 years, you do know that, of course, the Justice Department was, in fact, weaponized against the Trump campaign, later President Trump, later former President Trump, which is why he is now cleaning house as second President Trump. So when he says that, there's been weaponization against me, he's certainly not wrong. There is the impression that you would have from listening to this that the weaponization of the FBI started against Donald Trump. Now, the reason why I have absolutely zero problem with these firings is because I have long thought that there should be no FBI. I think the FBI is an illegitimate organization. I think they're a criminal organization. And part of what radicalized me... What's that?
I like the Pinkertons.
Yeah, there you go.
Bring back Pinkertons.
Well, part of what radicalized me into thinking that was this case, which happened in my hometown, the Newburgh 4 case, which we have reported on in the past. We actually did an interview with one of the defendants in that case. That is a Rumble exclusive. But here is Wesley Austin, a comedian and lawyer, that's how he bills himself, who does a fairly good summary of this case. Judge blasts FBI role in terror sting while releasing Newburgh 4 defendants. So the Newburgh 4 were brought up on terrorism charges, completely fabricated, completely entrapped. These were 4 desperately poor, in one case severely mentally ill, black Muslim men in the poorest city in New York State who were preyed upon and manipulated into this FBI sting operation. So here's a short summation from Wesley Austin here.
The FBI did it. James Cromedy, part of the Newburgh 4, convicted in 2010 for an FBI-orchestrated plot to attack New York synagogues and National Guard planes, was released from prison after a U.S. district judge criticized the FBI for entrapping defendants. The judge said, the 3 men were recruited so that Cromedy could conspire. The real lead conspirator was the United States. The FBI invented the conspiracy, identified the targets, manufactured the ordinance. The judge said that the defendants couldn't have come up with this plan on their own. I mean, talk about a backhanded compliment. You guys are guilty, but only guilty of being stupid. Look, we all want the FBI to stop criminals, and they're much more likely to stop them if they're the ones who hired them. This kind of strategy is still necessary. How do we expect the FBI to catch real criminals if they can't even catch themselves?
That's right. Like, comment, and subscribe. He did pretty well for himself there. If you want to hear a more established commentator speak on this, Glenn Greenwald did a piece on the Newburgh 4 talking about just the gross injustice of this case, a completely manufactured case against the poorest and most desperate people in society.
In this Newburgh 4 case, that I had reported on at the time. I've been disgusted and outraged by this case for years. They targeted 4 young, poor, emotionally unstable, very uneducated Muslim Americans. They used this unscrupulous, scummy FBI informant who'd been caught up in other crimes to lure them into crimes that the federal judge herself said they would never have committed. They would never have joined this plot. They would never have thought of this plot or any other plot absent being prodded and encouraged by the FBI. She criticized the FBI from the beginning for inventing their own plot, but was unfortunately constrained because the law of entrapment has been so narrow that even if you prove that the FBI was the proximate cause of the plot, the creator of the plot, the driver of the plot, the entity that caused you to join the plot, you still can't raise the entrapment defense. And so she had no choice but to convict them, even though she was expressing her disgust for the FBI along the way she did it. And she finally released them just on humanitarian grounds because she knows how much they don't deserve to be in prison.
That's right. That sums it up very well. And it didn't stop there with the Newburgh 4. They were just one of many, many sting operations against Muslim men in the aughts. But obviously, this escalated into the 2010s. So this is a New York Times piece from June of 2016. FBI steps up use of stings in ISIS cases. The FBI has significantly increased its use of stings in terrorism cases, employing agents and informants to pose as jihadists, bomb makers, gun dealers, or online friends, quote unquote, in hundreds of investigations into Americans suspected of supporting the Islamic State, records and interviews show. Undercover operations, once seen as a last resort, are now used in about 2 of every 3 prosecutions involving people suspected of supporting the Islamic State, a sharp rise in the span of just 2 years, according to a New York Times analysis. 2 out of 3 as of 2016. 2 out of 3 terrorism prosecutions were as a result of sting operations, which essentially means the FBI creates the quote-unquote plot. They frame it as, no, we're infiltrating an existing plot. That's nonsense. I don't believe a word of that after studying the Newburgh 4 case as much as I have. 2 out of 3 by 2016. Charges have been brought against nearly 90 Americans believed to be linked to the group. So I don't have data to prove this, but I'm going to say it's a very safe guess that at least half, and this is a conservative estimate, at least half of those 90 people were totally set up the way the Newburgh guys were. I think that's a very safe assumption to make. The increase in the number of these secret operations, which put operatives in the middle of purported plots, has come with little public or congressional scrutiny, and the stings rely on FBI guidelines that predate the rise of the Islamic State. While FBI officials say they are careful to avoid illegally entrapping suspects, ha ha ha, their undercover operatives are far from bystanders. In recent investigations from Florida to California, agents have helped people suspected of being extremists acquire weapons, scope out targets, and find the best routes to Syria to join the Islamic State, records show. So let me translate for you what that means. People suspected of being extremists, those are poor people in mosques who they can brainwash and bribe into some fakakta plot that they come up with. Then they do the legwork from there, and then they pinch them. That's what that is. It is a plot to manufacture consent for the permanent war machine and to justify their own existence as a law enforcement institution. So, all that leading to this. So, I started this segment out by saying I have absolutely zero problem whatsoever with them sending these FBI agents packing. I can totally sympathize with the Trump team for feeling that they were singled out for persecution by the Justice Department and by the FBI. I think that's totally legit. However, this problem long predates Donald Trump. It long predates the Newburgh 4. I mean, the FBI has been a corrupt institution for its entire existence, I would argue. But now the new sheriff is coming to town.
Although,
Kash
I mean,
Patel.
Hoover was a trailblazer in the trans rights space.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's something. But now, as Kash Patel comes to town, we have the question, well, is he going to actually discontinue the abuses of the FBI, or is he simply going to retaliate against an FBI that was weaponized against Donald Trump by clearing it out of Trump critics and replacing them with Trump loyalists who will continue the same abuses of the old FBI. That remains to be seen, and this is not particularly encouraging.
I think allowing the FBI to be politicized has resulted in far too little attention being placed on very serious national security risks that we face right now, including for the last 4 years. As a result of the open borders that we've had, over 12 million illegal immigrants have come into this country. And I believe as a consequence of that, we face a greater risk today of a major terrorist attack than we have at any time since September 11th, 2001. You have well over a decade of experience in national security and law enforcement. In your judgment, do you agree with me as to the magnitude of the threat we face right now of a potential terrorist attack?
It's as high as I've ever seen it, Senator.
Okay, so we're going to play the rest of this in just a second. So what Ted Cruz begins there by saying is, you know, the real bad thing about the weaponization of the FBI against Donald Trump is that it distracted them from their usual job of entrapping people in bogus plots. Yeah. And I think now with all these people coming across the border, there's a lot of bad guys out there who we have to get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And describe to this committee what the FBI should be doing.
My father came here from Cuba and killed attacks. Kennedy.
Yeah.
We don't want another incident like that.
Yeah.
Describe to this committee what the FBI should be doing to prevent future terrorist attacks.
Working hand in glove with our intelligence community and obtaining information that directly relates to the FBI's criminal mandate on an intelligence basis and thwarting and prosecuting and stopping any terrorist attacks here and any homegrown activities abroad that are directed at the United States of America, along with countermanding the CCP espionage rings in this country, which dovetail with the foreign terrorist organization activity.
Does it concern you that Customs and Border Patrol in the previous administration instructed Border Patrol agents in particular to be on the lookout for Hamas or Hezbollah or Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists crossing our southern border? Does that concern you as a risk to Americans across the country?
That, along with the fact that the prior Homeland Secretary and the prior FBI director testified to Congress that there are dozens of known foreign terrorist affiliates in the United States of America, and they don't know where they are.
And it will be your priority to stop them. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's somewhat of a pattern here that I want to point out to all of you, which is that the FBI, in their crimes against the public, seek to, like I said, justify their own existence and also reinforce political narratives of the day, which include, of course, in their case, the demonizing of the boogeyman. So, in the 2000s, through the Obama era, the boogeyman was the Muslim man. That was the war on terror era, pardon me. Mm-hmm. During the Trump era, the boogeyman was the white nationalist, right? So you had the FBI go out during the Bush era into the Obama era and create Muslim male terror suspects.
Whitmer plot.
Right. And then in the Trump era, you had the Whitmer fake kidnapping scheme to entrap the quote-unquote white nationalists. You could even argue January 6th was an op of that very nature, right? Well, now, during Trump term 2, what is the new boogeyman? The illegal immigrants. The illegal immigrant. Now the terrorists are going to sneak across the border. Now we have to crack down on them, which means now we have to go out and we have to create some new illegal immigrant suspects. So my take on this, I don't know how nuanced it is. I think it's pretty simple. I think it's pretty easy to follow. Good riddance to all these FBI agents who they fired. Good for them. I hope they starve on the streets. I don't give a shit about them whatsoever. But I'm not optimistic that this is going to result in a new and improved FBI. It's just going to be a more Trump-friendly FBI. I have no reason to believe that they are going to rein in the very kinds of abuses of the institution that we just outlined here.
Yeah, our time was limited and it wasn't all that interesting, so I didn't put a dedicated Patel piece together. If you think that fucking fruitcake who wrote a children's book characterizing himself as a wizard protecting King Donald is a guy that is not going to rebuild the FBI into something very similar to the old FBI, just serving different interests and railroading different people, you're out of your mind. I understand if you've nursed this deep and righteous hatred for the deep state, as many of us have, as we certainly do. Yeah, it's nice to see them get kicked in the pants. Right. It's nice to see them marching out with their file boxes with their ficus plants for there. Right. Like there's a certain validation and vindication.
Right.
But what do you think they're going to staff that building with?
Right.
Trump has already issued an order to develop files on people with student visas who are pro-Palestine. Does that look to you like an administration that is going to be more open, more free, more speech friendly? I understand the impulse to cast all this as good triumphed. It's not good triumphed.
Right.
It's one wing of the oligarchy driving out the other. Yankees versus Cowboys. That's all this is. The Yankees are getting their ass kicked, and yay, it's fun to watch. The Cowboys are being pretty clear already about what they're going to do. We'll get into this in a later segment. The world's richest man just took control of payment systems that have all of our social security numbers. And this guy also has a data collecting social media platform. Are you comfortable with that? Like you feel that is what you want? Like that's your idea of revolution? Like that's your idea of like driving out the bad guys? If it is, you're a fucking fascist. Like that's what you are. If that's your idea, if this is your idea of like positive change, you're a fascist. Like what you've wanted all along has been a strong totalitarian government to punish the wicked and put everything right. You're a fascist if this is something that doesn't horrify you. That doesn't in any way vindicate or validate the Democrats. We just had a lot of fun at their expense at the top of the show. It's not either or. Two things can be horrible at the same time. It's just two different flavors of that.
And don't worry. They're building a 30,000 bed detention center for illegal migrants on Guantanamo Bay. Don't be silly. Don't be alarmist. That's really nothing to worry about. That's nothing out of the ordinary. I heard Cenk and Anna talk about that. I saw it on a clip. Well, they've had this facility before. Yeah. Building 30,000 beds for migrants.
Pick me, motherfuckers. Yeah. Oh my God. I shared that with you. Cenk tweeted at the Colombian president. Well, you take them then.
Yeah, right. So no, it's no big deal. No, they're building a 30,000 bed detention center for illegal migrants on Guantanamo Bay. No, they're only going to send the murderers that they deport from the United States there. They're not going to create terror suspects out of migrants coming in and send them there. No, that's not good. No, I look at Kash Patel. Seems like a real trustworthy guy. Seems like a real solid dude. Yeah. No, this crew seems like a real solid crew.
Yeah, no. Crazy Eyes Patel is going to go and restore the balance. Like, I'm sure that he's going to make decisions as FBI director that hurt Trump's interests. Yeah, no. The guy who wrote a children's book about Donald Trump as the benevolent king. No, you can totally trust him to run a fair and impartial FBI. That guy's not a nutty guy at all. He's not a fucking screwball at all.
Yeah. Yep.
Unreal.
Please clap.